Hello and a warm, literally, welcome to Soundtrack of Your Life. I say literally because it finally feels like summer here in England in late June because the sun's decided to come out proper and get its arse into gear. So, you know what this show's all about by now. This is where you can get to share stories about how music, so that's albums, bands, soundtracks, songs, whatever you like, has interspersed with people, moments, events, scenarios, times in your life, because we've all got stories to share about them, so this is the place to do it. So my guest this week on the show is Helen Piper, and Helen is a coach in my network who helps people on their journey of self-discovery with the power of cacao and intuitive coaching. And when I spoke to her about being on the show, she was more than willing to be on because she says a very eclectic taste in music. Now, what follows is a really enjoyable chat again, and with a little bit of personal bias involved because, unbeknown to me, a lot of our tastes actually mix. So, you know, we talked a lot about, you know, the Britpop era and the times and songs and bands surrounding that time. And it was just, again, a really enjoyable, really fun conversation as well. You get to see Helen's really like bright personality and her background with what she does and music as well. So I think this is one you're going to really enjoy again. And if you want to be on the show, just check out the sign up link that's, you know, here around somewhere. You'll find it easily, I'm sure. As I say, a really enjoyable show with Helen. I'm sure we'll have her back on. And even if you just check out the names of her playlists that she provided, one's called Row Indie, so a mix of rock and indie, and one is called Hippity Hop and Bippity Bop. Which is quite funny in its own terms. But anyway, I'm sure you'll check them out and enjoy them as I did with the show. So without further ado, here's Helen's show. Enjoy and feel supersonic. Hello and welcome to Soundtrack of Your Life. This is the show where you get to share stories about how music in your life, songs, albums, bands, soundtracks, theme tunes, you name it, have interspersed with moments, stories and people in your life, because I believe we've all got stories to share about that. So I thought, look, let's have a show to share all that. We find ourselves on a Monday night where summer has finally got its arse in gear in London. So nice bit of brightness, bit of warmth to enjoy, and I couldn't have had a more brighter guest to have on the show this evening. So today we've got the brilliant Helen Piper. So Helen again is a coach and someone in my space, and again, like I want to do with all coaches, let me get this right, she's someone who guides your journey of self-discovery with the power of cacao and intuitive coaching. And she's probably got one of the best taglines around of cacao you doing. Which I think is just brilliant to really show what she does. So when we discussed her being on the show, you know, again, like with all the guests, she's got real passion, interest in music. So I thought, look, a natural fit, let's get her on and have this conversation. So without further ado, Helen, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I don't know where to start really. Like I say, it was quite funny when we were talking about coming on the show, and initially I was thinking when I picture like soundtrack to your life, I think of someone, show my age here, someone following around with like a ghetto blaster.
Yeah, yeah.
Not with a phone like the kids do now, but you know.
I think they need to make a comeback.
Yeah,
of sorts.
Absolutely.
Because I'm all for this, like everyone walks around with their headphones and earbuds and all this kind of thing. But you know, there's a place for the whole, you know, play something out loud and share it. But yeah, as I say, everyone's still just with their headphones, so well, you know, each their own.
They don't know what they're missing.
Honestly, no, they don't.
So yeah, it kind of brought up this kind of just vision in my mind of like going through my life with someone just behind me with a big ghetto blaster, like, right, we'll play that track for that bit and that one for that bit. So yeah, and then like I say, I was going through all my music and I just thought, I've got such a wide range of tastes. Like I might have the most random playlists. I think it started when I was really young because my mum and dad were really quite into music. And my dad used to run a folk club.
Oh,
so
nice.
So he was into lots of folk music and he played guitar and stuff like that. So I kind of grew up with him like singing around the house to like Ralph McTell and Bob Dylan and Eric Clapton and all that kind of stuff. And my mum did like folk music as well, but she was into a bit more sort of pop, so she was like into Cliff Richard. And so I think that kind of mix of everything just kind of meant I love all sorts of music. There's hardly anything I don't like, really.
Did you ever pick up an instrument?
Well, yeah.
Nice.
So, I used to play at school. I used to play clarinet, which turned out to be quite random because I wanted to do it because this other girl at school was playing clarinet, and I thought she was like really cool playing it. And then I started playing, and it was okay. And then I got to secondary school, and it was not cool to be playing clarinet at school. So suddenly I didn't want to do it anymore. My mum and dad were not too happy because it was quite an expensive instrument.
Well, quite, yeah. And the lessons to boot as well. Actually, no, probably at school. Yeah. Actually, did you pay for it at school? I think you did, didn't you? For like
yeah. So there was a clarinet teacher at school. I was the only person in school that would go and see him. And they'd try and like make me play in assemblies and stuff, and it was just like so embarrassing.
Oh man.
So I gave that up, kind of, much to my mum and dad's disappointment and disgust. And then I got into guitar, so probably early 90s, mid 90s, when I was a teenager. I feel really fortunate that I was a teenager in the 90s.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I think we were really lucky with our music. There was just such a wide range. Like, obviously, you'd watch Top of the Pops, TFI Friday when that was on. There was another one, I can't remember, White Room or something, that was on BBC Two, I think it was.
Good shout.
Yeah. So we'd watch all of those, but like, especially with like Top of the Pops, you could go from Madonna to Criss Cross to Rage Against the Machine to the Levellers to like, so I feel like we had a really good mix of music, and I think that helped with my tastes really. So so I think then so when I got into all of my kind of 90s bands, obviously Britpop, Oasis, Blur, then I got into guitar. So then I was kind of your typical, because I live down in Bournemouth, so we're down by the beach. So it was typical kind of crew of us would go out with our guitars down the beach, and we'd sit around in a circle playing our guitars.
Oh, that's amazing. That's brilliant.
So, yeah, we were quite cheesy.
What songs did you play? Do you have any particular band or track you're like, this is my number? And
we used to do a lot of what we were listening to. So there was a lot of Oasis. I did learn to play the picking of the whole Rage Against the Machine album.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that anymore.
I'm tempted to say, go get the guitar. That was David Brent then. Well, we could have an impromptu jam.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd be able to anymore. It's been many years since I picked up my guitar.
Come on, Helen, you're holding out on us here.
Yeah, I'm probably better on something like the triangle now or something,
I don't know, man. It's sitting there going, come on, give us a go.
Yeah, I should really, but it's just time, isn't it? And like getting back into it and stuff. But so yeah, I used to just sit in my bedroom for hours just picking over the same bit until I got it, and then the next bit, and then I'd put it all together. And
so did you like learn by ear? Did you have a teacher with that? Because obviously clarinet, you more formal lessons, but with the guitar, was it a teacher, or how did you?
Well, so my dad
oh,
learned
right,
guitar,
yeah.
so he could teach me some stuff on the guitar. So I was lucky with that. He could show me some chords and all that sort of stuff. And then my friend had the music book for the Rage Against the Machine album.
Brilliant.
So she lent that to me, and that was it. That was me every night for, I don't know, a month or a couple of months.
and honestly, like, it sounds so different to what it is now. Like, you can look up like whole sheets and books of music straight away online. There's like tutorials, videos from the bare basics, which are brilliantly done for sure. But back then it was like there was none of this around. I remember when I picked up my guitar for the first time. The internet, Google, YouTube wasn't around yet. Google was just kicking off, and I literally went online and just literally found one page where it described the parts of guitar. Like, here's the nuts, here's the neck, this is the body, this is how you tune it, this is what you tune, and literally just a basic chord diagram site. So this is a C, this is an A, this is an E, and then getting the infamous blisters on your fingers or the indentations off the strings when you go and trying to work out the strum pattern, all this kind of. But it was, you know, there's a sense of real enjoyment with that. And even now, you know, I'm not saying it doesn't get enjoyable anymore, but it was, as I say, there was nothing else needed, just the basics. And then, you know, I learned, like probably with your dad, I learned through a lot of osmosis with you know, a band that I got together with, like just my friends. We just made a band together in the summer.
Brilliant.
One summer it was like, you know, I said, I'm learning guitar to one of my friends, and we were in someone's back garden, and he went around the room going, well, he can sing, he can play anything, he can drum, he can place things, you play, I play, we should all just like get together and jam. And we did. It was just so lots of beer, lots of randomness, lots of what are we doing. But we honestly, like, we made a little album of like 6 self-penned songs out of various guises and
Amazing.
inspirations. Recorded about 20 CDs in total, and then did like a mini gig to some hecklers and friends. It was so much fun though, so much fun.
That's it. Yeah.
But then look, life
That's
came along.
brilliant.
We all had to go back to uni and stuff like. Obviously, we all lived in London, but obviously, you know, uni, and we just never quite got back together. But so much fun, honestly, so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think me and my friends, we all taught each other and helped each other out with different things as well. So, you know, that was another way of learning different things. Like one of us got a tune down.
Oh, good. Oh, nice. Did you ever record anything?
No, we didn't. No, it was just pure,
man.
like, we just used to just do it just because we just enjoyed it, you know. And like I say, you know, growing up in the 90s with all the Britpop and everything like that, it was just, everything was about music, wasn't it? Like, it was just, I mean, I remember we used to go on these, like, so when I was growing up, I used to go to church, and we had like a youth group.
Yeah.
Weren't always necessarily overly Christian when we would go away on our camps, but it was young people all together, we go away. And I remember one of the camps, me and my friend found out that it was when Kurt Cobain died. And we literally walked around the whole weekend with Nirvana on the Walkman, which was a tape at the time. We had one headphone each. So we just had it in our ear. We were walking around the whole weekend just like, oh, I can't believe it's gone, like really upset.
Well, that sounds like such a shared experience, isn't it? I mean, okay, people might go one headphone, you sort of lose half the mix or whatever, and you know, with bands like that, you probably want the 2 headphones to hear it, but it wasn't necessarily about the music. It's about sharing that moment, as you say, because you're right, it was such a out the blue probably moment and time to experience, like just out of relatively nowhere, and almost that like, okay, what happens now? That must have been a hell of a time to go through. It was really weird because, like you say, it was just so out of the blue, and obviously the conspiracies that went with it and all that sort of stuff. And my mum was quite good at like sort of family time, so she'd always want like dinner, we'd all sit around together. And I remember one evening sitting around for dinner, and Mum said, well, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, I want to talk about Kurt Cobain and Nirvana and how he died too young and he had so much more to give. And so we sat around having dinner while I just kind of let it all out about Nirvana and Kurt Cobain. That's brilliant. I love that.
It was just, I just remember that weekend, the whole weekend, just non-stop, every opportunity we had, Walkman was in, and we were just like, I can't believe this has happened. And I suppose it's weird, like, I don't know how I would have found out if she hadn't have told me either. Like, again, it's not like now where you can just pick up your phone and you get all these messages, you can see it instantly. You know, it was, like I say, I don't know when I would have found out if she hadn't have known and told me, because we went away on camp, so we weren't like watching telly or anything like that.
You're disconnected, so to speak.
Yeah, that's it. So, it was quite a big event at the time. I mean, it still is, I suppose, isn't it? People still talk about it.
What do you think is the appeal of that band specifically? Do you think that there's something about them? What would you say that was?
I think there was something about him, wasn't there, about Kurt himself?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Dave Grohl was part of the band as well, and he's an absolute legend. You know, he's gone on to do so much with like the Foo Fighters and stuff now, and you know, so he clearly has got so much talent with all the different instruments that he can play and everything. But there was something about Kurt, like he was kind of just your normal everyday person. He didn't come from any special background. If anything, he probably came from a really hard background. And he was like an artist as well. Like he didn't necessarily want the fame. It was more about creating this art. Like he used to draw and paint and stuff as well. And so the music was just like another way that he would express himself. And he was just so good at that. Like his lyrics were so clever. And, I just think, he was just something a bit different. And they were just that slightly off the norm. Like they just had kind of their own sound. And they were just a magic mix. I think they just all found each other at the right time. And as
I think all legendary bands do, right? And you're right, there's something very as you said, they achieved huge stardom, but he never wanted that. I think that's without knowing everything about his life and details, but he almost felt like I don't get why this is going on. Not like an anti-hero thing, because I guess you could see the impact the music was having on people, but I guess he used it as a vehicle to express his own psyche or side of things. And there are some songs and lyrics where like, okay, it's quite viscerally personal, and messages that were like, okay, that's a bit close to the bone type thing. But there was something about that band in particular, because it's funny, like I've often said, I probably have said it on the show previously, that I'd say probably from the 50s/60s to the 90s, you could quote 2 or 3 bands that literally captured the time. So 60s, you've got the Beatles, carrying on into the predominantly here, I mean, like Beatles, the Stones, the Who, the Stone Roses, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, well, from abroad, Black Sabbath. And then into 90s, you got Nirvana, and then into Oasis, Blur, then into things like the Spice Girls. Take that, okay, random. But
I know what you mean.
But they beyond the musical significance is the cultural importance. Like they summed up the times we're in, and it's lovely that you mentioned the Britpop scene and being around. I'm very jealous. Because I don't think we've been able to capture that ever since. I was 11 at the time in '96, which is probably the heightest of heights of the time, right? Like, legitimately, you could say we had the best band in the world in Oasis. Euro '96 was here, so the football. It just seemed like a long, hot summer. And we just had a change, or coming up to a change of leadership. Similarly, actually, to now, we've got the Euros going on. Okay, Oasis aren't necessarily around, but there's music around. Well, Liam's around, and Noel, and
Noel's around, just separate.
Exactly. And this summer's coming along, and with hopefully there's a change of leadership. But I just don't think we've been able to go. Do you know, if you could pick any place to be on Earth, it would be here. Since '96, and just you saying it, you're on the beach with your friends playing guitars, like, how cool is that?
We thought we were pretty cool.
Damn straight.
But I know exactly what you mean. Like, so I was 16 in '96, so I was flat bang middle teenager. So that's why I was getting into all of that stuff. I was the right age. And actually, it's funny you mentioned the Spice Girls. I didn't like the Spice Girls, but so I grew up watching MTV, VH1, and The Box. And The Box was one that you'd phone in and request. So that was how you would watch stuff. You'd either go to the pub and use the jukebox, or you'd put on The Box and you'd phone up the number and you'd put in the code for your song, and then you'd wait for hours for your song to come on.
It's my song.
And then Spice Girls came out with their Wanna Be, yeah. And so they came out, and I remember every time you put The Box on, it was just that song over and over and over. It was like, they've ruined this channel, because it was just non-stop the Spice Girls, the same song. But so it was like MTV Get Home From School, VH1, and The Box up until the Spice Girls released their first single.
It's funny, you feel like you could set your watch by these channels or what have you at that point, couldn't you? Like, okay, if it wasn't kids TV, it'd be, as you said, like, well, the channels you just mentioned, MTV, VH1, to get your, you know, and people going, what were those? It's like, okay, MTV and that is still around, but correct me if I'm wrong, it's all about lots of shows now, you know, just following some randomers or whatever. But there, it was literally, as the music suggests, music television, you know, you'd see the latest video from X artist and you go, oh, that's the new single or track or whatever, and that's how you know, oh shit, they're out again. And you know,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember I was always the one going, someone would mention a song and I'd be like, oh, is that the one with the video? And
yeah.
Like, oh yeah, because that's how I knew them all. It was like through the video, absolutely 100%. Because like I say, get home from school, just gone 3 o'clock, MTV straight on until the news at 6 o'clock when my mum and dad would make me turn over.
That's enough of that now. Do you remember any like famous videos around that point? I know you said Wannabe was on Blooming Repeat, but any
so
ones that stick to your mind?
That one, but obviously the classic like Oasis with Wonderwall, the black and white, Prodigy, Firestarter. Also things like The Shaman, Ebenezer Goode, and stuff like that. There would be Stone Roses, Spin Doctors, Pulp.
Yeah.
I remember Pulp at the Brit Awards with Michael Jackson.
Yeah, Jarvis.
That was like such a scandal at the time.
And that made things like the 10 o'clock news. It's random, isn't it? It's like, you know, that the Brits tonight this happened. And if you don't know what we mean, just YouTube Jarvis Cocker, Michael Jackson, Brit Awards, and you'll see for yourself.
Yeah, and that was such a big thing at the time.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it really
it
was.
A real scandal. Like, oh, I can't believe he did that. And like, I remember watching it and just seeing him like getting up and going, "What is he doing?
Where's
he
going?"
Meant to be happening? Like, and then you kind of realise, oh no, this isn't meant to be happening.
It's so funny. Yeah, it was such a magic time. I mean, you must have so many songs and memories from that period going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was starting then at the beginning of like festival time for me as well. So then going into like festivals, and so we went to V Festival for a few years in a row. And I remember the last one we did, it was a shame actually. So the last one, I think everyone kind of goes through a stage of like, you go to a festival and it's like, yeah, it's all about the music, and then you kind of get to the point where it's like, this isn't about the music anymore, and I can't come to this anymore because there's too many young people, like they don't know what it's all about. And I think everyone goes through like that process. So we did exactly the same with the festivals. So we did V for a few years. I was a bit of a posh festival goer, so I'd buy day tickets and go and stay in a B&B and go back for the day and not do the camping.
That's quite clever, actually.
Oh, it was good, because then you get your full English breakfast and you have a nice shower, and it's
good thinking.
Yeah.
Well, if you can plan it that way, brilliant.
Yeah. It was definitely the best way. You'd come in and see all your mates that are camping, and they'd be like, "Oh, I can't wait to have a shower." And be like, "Yeah, I'm all fresh, thanks." Yeah. But anyway, I remember the last year that we went to V Festival, the Red Hot Chili Peppers were headlining.
Nice.
And loved the Chili Peppers. And I'd actually, was this before or after? I think, no, this was after. So they had previously, one of my first jobs was working in a hotel, and they actually came and stayed with us at the hotel one night.
Oh, nice.
And it was just, like, we didn't expect, because it wasn't under their actual names. They had their, like, pseudonyms that they were under.
Of course, yeah.
So, when they came and checked in, it was almost like, I can't believe this is happening, but it was quite a posh hotel as well. And so it was really late at night. It wasn't long before my shift was going to finish. And you're not supposed to, like, I was quite young, and we'd always been told, like, if famous people come in, you don't say anything. Like, you just treat them like anybody else. And so I was too scared to say anything. So it was just like, do you want a wake-up call? And, like, checking them in and, like, not really doing anything. And my friend sort of took them off to the room, and it was like, oh, I can't believe they're here, like, oh. So I did get to kind of meet them, but was too scared to say anything because I've been told not to. And also, these are like absolute legends, like, you know, when you get a bit shy and
it's a bit starstruck, I guess, right?
Yeah, you can't believe they kind of stood right there in front of you. So there was that, and then so they were headlining at V Festival, and this was the last one we went to because we were there, and nearly everyone at the festival had gone to see them, obviously. So it was packed, absolutely packed, and we were stood by a load of guys, big guys with their beers. They were like chanting all the songs, you know, and we were just like, this isn't what it's about, like. So we had, I think it was Underworld or Orbital, one or the other, was playing on the other stage. So me and my friend were like, should we just go and see what that's like? So halfway through, we just legged it away from Chili Peppers, went over to the other stage, and it was practically empty. There was maybe like 50 people.
Oh, wow.
And so it was just us, right at the front, loads of room to dance, the lights streaming out across the field, and it was just like, oh, this is amazing. It was so much better. So I'm so glad that we kind of...
So you didn't mind going away from the headliner to like the other band? You didn't mind that? You're like, no, I'm here to see them, surely. But no,
I mean, we were there to see them, but when we were actually there, it was like, oh, this is like, we were really far back. Like,
right.
People all around us were just like, oh, you know, being all noisy and like, it just didn't feel right. Like, yeah, it was just, and like I say, this was also, we were getting to that stage of like, these young people don't know what festivals are about.
There's a code, obey the code.
Yes, you're meant to be a bit hippie and a bit woo-woo and enjoy the music, and it's about the art, man. It's not about, you know, just getting drunk, and it's not Bournemouth on a Saturday night, you know, you're not going into town. So we were just like, no, can't be doing this. So a couple of the group that we were with stayed and watched the whole of the Chili Peppers, but me and my other friend were just like, I'm not enjoying it. And I know that that's going to be a blinding gig on the other stage. So it was a bit of a tricky one for us anyway, because it was like, I'd really like to see them, but the Chili Peppers. So yeah, because we weren't enjoying it, we were like, yeah, let's go.
No, that's fair. That is fair enough. You know, like, you know, as you said, many a time where you think, okay, I've spent all this money, I've spent all this time, we're here now, but it's you're not really. If the experience doesn't match what you were thinking, or, you know, not that you had expectations, but as you said, it all adds up. And if you're way far back, there's maybe people blocking your view, or, you know, making it a bit like, you know, and look, to each their own, you know, as much as we'd like everybody to do what we're doing, just like, look, can anyone shut up a bit? It's not going to happen. So it's like, it's cool that you're able to go, look, do you know what? I can go and have a good time over there as well. So
yeah. And it was absolutely brilliant. We loved it. So it was definitely the right thing for us to do. And, you know, we missed out on half of it, but I got to meet them, so, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, no one could put a price on that. Would you have like a favourite festival moment or gig time at that point, around that time?
Probably a gig. So a lot of bands and stuff, when they come down to Bournemouth, they play at the Bic. We've got the
yeah.
And so we went there and saw, and this is probably a bit of a random one, really, because I don't think many people would say it's their best gig, but we went to see Jamiroquai.
Oh, nice.
And their support act was breakdancing. So instead of it being a band that you didn't really know, or it was just all these breakdancers, and they were amazing. They were so good. So we really enjoyed those, because it was also something, like I say, quite different, because normally it's just a band that you've really not heard of, or and then they came on, and this was sort of Emergency on Planet Earth, Return of the Space Cowboy kind of era. So they were still having a lot of didgeridoo in their music, and we were right at the front, right by where the didgeridoo player was, and he was just insane, like, just how much he was playing, like, 'cause it's hard work, isn't it? Like,
it's a physically demanding instrument.
Yeah. He was doing solos, he was playing throughout the whole gig, you know, which is what, a couple of hours or something, like,
at least.
Oh, it was just amazing. And
wow.
I think still to this day, like, I've had really good other gigs I've been to. I saw the Levelers down there, they were brilliant. Obviously all the festivals and stuff that we went to, we saw loads of different people, but they're the ones that really stand out in my mind for just an outstanding, yes, I loved that you had break dancers rather than a band as your support act, and seeing the didgeridoo being played like that up close, it just blew my mind.
Brilliant. I love it. Is there anyone what you'd wish you'd seen live or haven't seen yet or want to go Any missing
Yeah,
acts
so
yet?
I missed out on Prodigy.
Oh, they're
Because
still
I
around though,
just
aren't they? I know Keith Flint's not around, unfortunately,
Yeah,
but
Keith's not around, is he? So yeah, it's not quite the same. But
mm,
yeah, I missed out on Prodigy when they came down. I don't know why I missed. I think I just couldn't afford a ticket at the time. But yeah, there wasn't like a big reason why I missed out on it. I just couldn't get a ticket,
yeah.
and yeah, I couldn't go. And so yeah, I've never seen Prodigy, and I would have loved to have seen them. But otherwise, no. I mean, yeah, I was pretty lucky. I got to see quite a lot of different bands because obviously festivals, you get a whole load
Very
of them
true.
going.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
tick
yeah.
loads off the list. We did a couple of dance festivals as well, so we've seen like the Chemical Brothers a few times and seen
Wow.
them do a DJ set and their own stuff. So that was really cool. So yeah, I feel I was quite lucky. And I used to work. I used to work in a skate shop years ago, and we used to get some really random opportunities just from people that would come in the shop and start talking to us about stuff. And so we had like 2 floors. So downstairs was like the women's clothes and the shoes, and then upstairs was all like the skateboards, the surfboards, the men's clothes, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And the guy that used to sort of run upstairs came down and was like, we can go see Eminem tomorrow. And it was like, what? It's like, someone's got tickets and they're not using them, so we can have their tickets. And it was like,
Wow.
okay. So yeah, it was a Sunday. I think it was at the bowl at Milton Keynes.
All
So
right.
we finished work. He was doing a big thing there. I think Cypress Hill were there supporting, but we parked up and were running over to it, and we could hear them, but we missed them because by the time we got there, because we had to go, like I say, we had to go after work. So literally,
Oh no.
yeah, 4 o'clock, we like quickly locked up the shop, all jumped in the cars, like piled into all the different cars. I drove my car up there, my sticker car, which was my little automatic Nissan Micra that was covered in skate stickers. Drove that up there really quick, and then yeah, everyone had dumped their cars on this like dual carriageway. They'd all just parked on the verges, so we were like, okay,
All right, yeah.
so we just dumped our cars there as well. Legged it over, listening to the last little bit of Cypress Hill, and then got in time for Eminem. And yeah,
Wow.
watched him. I mean, that was just like so random. Like it was literally the day before we got the tickets, and so that was really cool. Got to go
It
and see 50 Cent.
does it feel like those kind of things don't necessarily readily happen now? It just seems like these kind of spontaneous great stories of, like as you said, someone rocked up to your shop, had spare tickets or unused tickets to Eminem, not like some 2-bit band down the road. It's like, this is Eminem,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, it doesn't feel like it happens now. Everything's like
No.
a massive, affair and package, and like if you're 10 seconds out of sync on when the tickets go on sale, that's it, you've had it, because they're already on a third party site for hundreds of pounds and whatever. Probably so many examples now, right? Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, all these like big acts that release it, and there's suddenly the demand is not supplied because all the tickets have gone, and it's like, it just feels like more of an ordeal rather than, and who's going to rock up, hey look, I've got 2 spare tickets to go see Taylor Swift or whomever, and you're like, but here you are, day after I'm off. Wow.
And that's what I mean. Like it was such a different time, and I just feel really fortunate. We had like all the influence of like the 60s 70s rock that kind of trickled over into the 90s. 80s I'm not a big fan of the 80s, so I haven't really, 80s stuff isn't really my thing, but you had all like the electronics starting to come in there, and so that kind of filtered into the 90s, and like I say, with the whole Britpop, Oasis against Blur, bringing singles out at the same time, who was going to get to #1, and watching Top of the Pops and TFI Friday, and I just feel like we had that perfect time. Like
we honestly did.
Later, you would have missed so much. Like, and like you say, you feel a bit jealous that you were a few years later. Like,
well, it's because you also, having lived in the moment yourself, and I'm looking back at it, like it seemed very fleeting. It was only a little bit, right? It wasn't like extended years or like even like a year. It was like that, you could feel the movement maybe from like 93-4 when, Blur were getting bigger and Oasis was starting to get bigger, and all these little bands from, you got Blur, Oasis, Pulp, Radiohead, that was seen as like the figurehead bands. We got other bands like, Cast and Sleeper, Elastica, all these Supergrass, all these little bands, like I say little, but like, you know, those bands are around the periphery, if you will. Carried on into 95, you know, Morning Glory came out, and, you know, Oasis took off, and then 96, as I say, with all those mixes, and then 97, you know, we had the change of government, and then, you know, many people remark, and I don't know what your take on this is, like, that era, if you will, that time ended in September with Princess Diana. That it's like, you know, and coincidentally with Oasis' third album, Be Here Now, coming out, which is like, okay, it really didn't meet a lot of people's expectations and performances. Like, it just kind of, like, someone had switched the party off almost. Did you feel that at the time as well? Because I was getting a bit more cognizant too of like, okay, this is quite a major event, and of course it was, but did you feel the same, like, you know, that era was
it was like a shift, wasn't it? It was a weird thing. Like, Princess Diana, I mean, I wasn't, you know, obviously I was a teenager, I was into indie and stuff, and I wasn't really about the royal family at all, and I do feel like in the 90s we were quite, not angry, but quite rebellious, like wanting to rebel against the system, you know, wasn't it? And it was like, you know, I don't agree with what's going on, like, you know, I'm not going to vote and all that kind of stuff, and because it just, none of it represented who you were. And so kind of we had this like build up of like everyone feeling that way, and a lot of the songs, it's expressed in a lot of the songs, isn't it? Like, you can hear it in all the lyrics and stuff, like everybody saying like we're all working class and we're all struggling and, you know, making the best of what we can, and then like she died, and it all just shifted. The album by Oasis was very disappointing. I was disappointed in that one. It's not my favourite at all, and I don't really understand why. It just all kind of started to fizzle out, didn't it? Like,
I think
pop come in a bit more and took over. And did TFI Friday and that finish then as well? Was that when TFI Friday finished?
Sounds about right. If not then, like maybe only a year or two more. You're right. It did feel like, you know, and I guess, you know, we were obviously approaching the millennium, which, you know, nothing really happened, but it just felt like this whole big turnover of like, okay, the millennium now, and with that,
the millennium bug or something. Wasn't it?
Everyone's obsessed with that. You know, we're going to turn to Terminator. This machines will become self-aware and we'll all die. And well, hang on. But as you say, I think the new wave of artists came through. You know, as we mentioned, like, you know, Take That came more prominent. The Spice Girls. So I guess back to that sort of girl boy band setup rather than the guitar based indie guitar band people. It was like, okay, yeah, and I guess that was roughly around the time those TV shows started. Pop Idol came along, Pop Stars came along, so everybody went onto that sort of train, and it's like now we're just stuck in this manufactured faff.
Because I remember actually those starting, and like we were all disgusted by it. Like, that's not proper music; it's all manufactured. Like, we were not happy.
It felt like a novelty though. It's like, oh, hang on, okay, they're trying to find a talent star or whatever on TV, but you know that's where things like reality TV took off. Is it Big Brother kicked off at that point? I've never ever watched the bloody thing, but you know, I think that's the whole shift.
Big Brother was amazing, I do have to say.
Again, probably because of the novel factor, right? Because it's like, oh, hang on, 10 randomers, and we got almost 24/7 access, and you know,
and they didn't really think anyone would watch it, so they were completely themselves. It was, I mean, you could never recreate that again, because once you've done it once, you've done it, you know. But
I mean, they're bloody trying, but
but it's never going to live up to that first ever time it was played in Ed. But do you remember as well? You'd get secret tracks on CDs.
Oh yeah, hidden tracks. Yeah. You keep waiting to the end of the last song, keep it playing, and then there's one in there.
Yeah, suddenly a track would come out of nowhere.
Yeah. See little things. Yeah. I guess the equivalent today is like those Easter eggs that they hang in, like, you know, at the end of films now they stick the
Marvel, like
all those things, like what's coming up next and stuff like that. So
they'd be great. Yeah, you just suddenly, like, I'd always take ages like having a shower and stuff, and so like a CD would be playing and then it would stop, and then like I'd still be getting ready and faffing and thinking that it had switched itself off. I'm out of nowhere. It's like, oh, this is great. Like the novelty of it, wasn't it? It was like,
and
amazing.
And if it's something you found, it's like, well, you tell your friends, because like, who's going to find out about it otherwise? It's not You know, it wasn't like an internet page or someone WhatsApping you, whatever, going, no, check this out. It's like, oh shit, I found this. I wonder if anyone else has got this. If I got like the secret limited edition version or something. It's like, it's these little things that, you know, you have to, you know, even to get an album, you have to go out and physically buy a CD or a tape. You know, wait to, you know, in your local Woolworths. They need to bring Woolworths back, man.
Or Our Price. Did you have Our Price?
Our Price, yeah. Our Price. What other classic shops were there? I know HMV they're in and around, but Virgin Megastore.
Ours was definitely Our Price. Yeah, I don't really remember. Yeah. Otherwise, it was like little ones. Like we've got one. I think it's still there actually in Parkstone, which is just like up the road from us. A shop called Big Brother. So before the TV program, it's been there for years, and you could get band T-shirts in there and records and all that sort of stuff. So like, you'd either go to like Our Price or you'd go to Big Brother on Ashley Road.
Yeah, and it was always the same places. You know, your local record shop. You know, you'd support it or you know whichever. Yeah. And again, it seemed like a part of the traditional process, right? You'd see the advert on TV or an MTV or in the paper. And you would go to your local thingy, and on this like online, you know, well, you're not even online. Just go on your phone, like Spotify, whole album, click down, well, done. You know, nothing.
That's it. And it's also like the process of getting the album. Like, I remember getting the Space album on CD, and it was covered in spiders and tarantulas. And I'm arachnophobic, so I don't. So
Can't get it.
Close my eyes and get the CD out and feel for the CD player and be like, right, that's it, and then close it. And then now I can listen to it. Because it was just absolutely cool. But I had to have that album because they were another one that were really good, but they weren't obviously as well known as your Oasis and Blur and all of that. But
even then, it's like, you know, you mentioned album art. That seems to have been almost forgotten about now. Because obviously, there are still albums, but there was something seemingly like classic about, you know, an album cover and, you know, the sleeve notes or, you know, the tour poster or whatever it is. Because, you know, you can remember iconic album covers. You know, like, you know, on the cover of Morning Glory, everyone knows where that street is in London where the photo is taken. And it's literally not a signposted place. It's a little side street off Tottenham Court Road, and it's there. The zebra crossing in Abbey Road. There's a camera there now, 24/7. You can go. There? Yeah, I think online. So if you Google like Abbey Road CCTV zebra crossing, you've got a live 24/7 feed of the zebra crossing.
Brilliant.
It's there, exactly, and it's just little things like that. And if you look at the cover, it's nothing special. It's just the four of them walking across the road. Yeah. Yet, you know, iconically, you know who they are, what the album is, and all that. But you know, now it's like, well.
Yeah, you don't get any of that because you'd see some of them would do like their music notes, wouldn't?
Yeah.
So where they'd scribbled out starting like the lyrics and stuff like that, and you could see how it would start to form and come together, or like artwork. Like the Levelers, one of the guys in the Levelers used to do a lot of their artwork, I think himself. So a lot of that would be in there. Yeah, just really cool stuff, wasn't it? Like the whole process of getting an album was so completely different to what it is now, because like you say, it was the opening up of the case, the seeing the artwork on the CD, the pulling out the booklet, seeing what's in the booklet, listening to it in order. I think that's where I get a bit of my music's got to be in the right order. Like you can't just go from like one crazy song to something completely different. Like there's a way it works together. It's
the code. I see. It's in that order for a reason. I think sometimes there's a narrative going. They want you to experience it in, you know, certain way. Look, to each their own. People make their own playlist now and But there's something to be said about sticking in a tape, a CD, or whatever now, and just run it through in the order it's in, right? You know. Yeah. And one thing I do like nowadays, like you know, I think they're getting in more popular or I say popular, but I don't know if it's a regular thing, that you have these listening parties. So I first experienced them when Noel released his first solo album. And apologies if I've said this on the show before, I can't remember, but I'll say it anyway. There was a competition he put out saying, you know, win tickets to the listening party. I'm like, what's that? It's like, well, before the album goes on public sale, there's like a private sort of showing or screening. You get to hear the album first, and like, oh, all right.
Oh, okay.
So
like going to see a premiere of a movie.
Exactly.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you know, in the Oasis fan community, we knew of like some of the songs that might be on there and bits and bobs, and I put my competition entry in, and and then I got a ticket. Like, oh wow! So it was a bar in central London near Great Portland Street, I think, and it was like in the middle of the day, so not during bar opening hours, and they let us all in quietly, and it was about 50 of us in like the sort of lower ground, and the barman went, right, gonna play the album and see what you think, all right? And then he played it, and we were all silent, just listening, everybody sort of experiencing the music, and the album's about like 45 minutes, and at the end of it, like, we all cheered and applauded, and someone from the car went, oh, play it again, man. And the barman was like, all right. He just put it on again. So
Nice.
we went to, and as the second time was playing, like, a few people made their way out until it was only about 8-10 of us left.
Yeah.
And we kind of just commandeered the bar. There was no one else in there. One of the guys had like his iPod on him and had just all Oasis and old stuff on, and he gave it to the bar and said, just put that on the speakers and put it on random. And we all were there just sharing, stories, and we found a little like community. There was rumours that Noel might come down, but I think
that would have been amazing.
I would have been like you, the Chili Peppers, going, no, and like, I think who was it? Whoever it was, their representative said, "Oh, we wanted to come down, but he was busy doing something else." Like, okay, whatever. We got a little like signed album cover instead, but that was my first concept of like, you all just sit there and you listen to it, and So
amazing.
One of the guys I listened to the album with, one of the 8 that stayed back, when Liam and John Squire released their album a couple of months ago. We took a couple of weeks saying, right, let's not listen to it, but let's find a time when we're both free and we just log on like this and we just play it in order for the first time. So we did it, and it's like, so like, it was brilliant. It was such a funny time where like he'd catch a bit and I'd catch a bit, and it's like, oh, let's repeat that track because that was bloody good. Like, yeah, okay, we sync up and like, yeah. So just shared experiences. It's honestly, it's so cool.
Yeah, that's it. And I think there was a lot of that. Like, I remember, because obviously this was the time as well that you'd still go to like discos. Like, like DJs at a disco, like, I don't know, they'd be like the old school ones where they'd say like the buffet opens at whatever time and that kind of thing. But you could go up to them and be like, can you play this track and can you play that track, and so you could get all the tracks that you wanted. I mean, you'd almost end up being the DJ because you and all your mates could go up and be like, play this song, play that song, and it would just there was just something about that old school way of doing it was kind of magical. And like now, like you say, you can just, I mean, we've got smart speakers, so I can literally just ask the speaker to play whatever and it will,
It just doesn't feel the same for some reason, does it?
No, and like going up and asking for a song and nobody would know what you asked for, and then it would come on and everyone's like, yeah. like Sit Down by James was always a classic one that we did, and we'd all end up sitting on the floor, or like if Prodigy came on, No Good Start the Dance, that was always one that I'd come up to and they'd be like, yeah, where were you when it started, like, this is your song, like, and it was just that kind of magic to it. Like, it's just not the same. But I don't know if that's just my age. I'm getting old.
Well, I wholly agree, and I just don't think it's an age thing.
No,
because you're right, we're not going to recreate that, but there's the fact that so many people recollect it so fondly, not even through confirmation bias or comparison to today, but it's like it just seems so much fun back then. And we're getting little tastes of it now, as we mentioned. Liam is touring definitely maybe at the moment. I went to see All Four Nights last week.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I'm like, well, he's in town, and it's like it's he played the whole album, and he played the B-sides, and you're like, so like, Cloudburst, I Will Believe, even an old
Brilliant.
demo. Like, where are you going to hear this again? Like, you know, and you read about things afterwards going, yeah, you know, the crowd were a bit flat during the B-sides. Like, well, if you're not there, if you don't know these songs, that's more for you. Yeah, but I was
Yeah.
loving it. Like, where am I going to hear this rare bloody B-side again live?
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
by you know, 2/5 of the original. Like, you know,
Yeah.
Bonehead was there, obviously Liam's there. It's like, you're not going to hear this again, but it's like, you know, and it's interesting you mentioned before, but you know, we at the time it felt very much of a potential here and angst here to go, we've had enough of this rule, we've had enough of this. It's very free spirited, very, you know, almost sod you type thing. And
Yeah.
you know, it reflected a lot of the lyrics and the music. You know, I only saw an interview the other day about, you know, an old one with Noel going, you know, I wrote this album to get that idea of like, I want to break free, I want to break out of where I am, I want to make some money, and it's just the simple truths about my life, you know, whether people get it or not. You know, it's about, you know, rock and roll music and drinking and taking drugs and this kind of thing. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
that was the freedom of the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know?
it was absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. It definitely felt like a different time, and it definitely felt like a freer time. Maybe it was like our version of the 60s, because the 60s was all like peace
True.
and love, wasn't it? So maybe
True.
it was like our kind of, yeah, our more modern version of that.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
second
know.
coming, probably. Yeah, and you know, it's funny today. We're like, you know, look, again, I don't want to get into the whole, you know, no one's as good today and what have you. But it, look, you know, even the credence of, you know, Taylor Swift, whatever she's done, Ed
Yeah.
Sheeran, Coldplay. You know, there are bands and movements and massive gigs and stuff still going on. So that's all good. But you know, it's. I wonder how we'll sort of look back on this. You know, we're here 30 years after the event of Britpop, the mid 90s into the early 2000s, and recollect it so fondly. I wonder how that's going to look like in, you know, the same period of time down the line with this period. It's going to
Yeah.
be an interesting one.
Yeah, and I find also it's quite interesting that a lot of like they've got like 90s radio and stuff like that, haven't they? Like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of referring back to that time as well now.
yeah.
And I don't know if that's all because they know we're parents and they're trying to sell stuff to us by appealing to our music taste.
Well, no, it's a very good point. That actually, it's catering to our experiences. They know that, like, hey, look, we had such a great time out of it. So if there's material of that ilk out there, the same material, well, you know, we'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think that's seen in not just music, but you know, how many films are they recreating? And I say
Yeah,
recreating / ruining. Like, stop ruining my childhood. Leave it alone. Like, stop it. Just stop.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they are, aren't they? They're sort of going back and doing all these different movies. And it's like, no, leave it as it was. It was fine as it was. We don't need you to try and remake it. And
exactly, it got classic for a reason. Don't just leave it.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could use some time now to talk about you know, songs in particular, or bands or whatever that, you know, may link to certain emotions and people for you, because I'm sure you may have some stories and stuff to tell around that.
Yeah, so well, like I say, so initially my dad was into folk music, so that was kind of the first sort of music that I experienced. And I just remember him singing American Pie all the time. Like, that was one of his favourites. He'd sing that all the time. Ralph McTell's Streets of London. I don't know if you've heard that one.
No.
It's quite niche. Some of his stuff was quite niche.
Okay.
But I'll put it on one of the playlists, so that's on there. And he used to sing that all the time. There was a guy called I think it was Lonnie Donegan. My Old Man's a Dustman.
Oh yeah.
So he used to sing that quite a lot as well. So all of those kind of ones remind me of my dad. And so my dad passed away when I was like 21, and so he liked Eric Clapton. So Eric Clapton's also another one that makes me like think of my dad and stuff. And it's funny because as a teenager I'd be like, oh Dad, I don't like your music, I'm not going to listen to your music. But now I'm like, oh, I love these tunes. Like,
they knew what they were doing, our folks, didn't they? They knew what was going. They knew
Definitely.
they knew the score. They knew the score.
Yeah. So yeah, anything like those kind of lines really makes me think of my dad. But yeah, American Pie and yeah, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's very makes me think of my dad. I suppose, yeah, any Cliff Richard song makes me think of my mum because she was a massive Cliff Richard fan. I remember she went to some gigs when I was little of his. I remember one year she'd gone to London to get me, I think this was the year she got me a Teddy Ruxpin. Do you remember Teddy Ruxpin? You might have been a bit young because I was fairly young at the time. So Teddy Ruxpin was like a little teddy bear. I think he probably freaked most people out now. But it was like a teddy bear that you could put a tape in the back, and he'd move his mouth and like talk and sing, and you'd get a little book that you could work your way through the book.
Oh, blimey!
So she went up to London. I mean, it was quite a big teddy bear,
right?
It had to get a tape player in it, so it was a fair size,
right?
So she went and got that, and then had to take that to the Cliff Richard concert with her, because
as you do,
as my Christmas present, yeah. But yeah, so I remember that. I loved my Teddy Ruxpin. I couldn't put him down. He was my favourite thing ever.
So, sorry, was he meant to be like an educational tool? Like, would you put, I don't know, things to learn off him, or is it just to play with music?
Yeah. I mean, you'd get a book that would go with it, so you could it would tell you a story.
Oh, right, okay.
To turn the page.
Ah.
And then I do remember, so there were other characters in the book, and initially you could only get Teddy Ruxpin, and then he had, I think his friend was a caterpillar or something, and so at some point further down the line, a couple of years later, they bought out his friend, so then you could put the tape in both of them, press play at the same time.
Oh my God.
And they talk to each other. I didn't get the caterpillar one, but I just had my Teddy Ruxpin. But I thought it was.
Have you still got him?
I think he's at my mum's house. I think he's still at my mum's house. Yeah, I haven't got him here with me.
I mean, surely it may be time to get his mate and see if they still talk to each other.
I don't know if you could get them anymore. I think they probably stopped making them. They're so old.
Oh, well, maybe
Probably like
knocking
a
about on
vintage.
eBay or somewhere. You never know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'd have to have a look. But so he was like my favourite toy. So yeah, I always associate Mum going up to see Cliff Richard and having like this big Teddy Ruxpin that she's taken to the gig with her.
Imagine trying to get that in now. Like, excuse me, what have you got in there? What's the tape?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't happen, would it? Yeah, no. So yeah, in the good old days. So yeah, she's Cliff Richard 100%. And then a lot of actually, I was talking to her about this when I did dancing as well when I was growing up. And I went from doing like ballet and modern to, started getting a bit older, middle school and stuff. I got into like a bit of rap, like Salt and Pepper and Criss Cross, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we were still quite young at the time, so we would make up dances. And I said to my mum, how her and my dad and the other parents would keep straight faces when they'd come to pick us up, and we'd be like, "Can we show the dance we've made up?" And we put on Salt and Pepper, Let's Talk About Sex.
Brilliant.
We're doing this dance. I'm like, how you kept a straight face, I will never know.
How old were you at this point?
Well, we were like middle school age, so I don't know, like 8, 9, 10.
Brilliant.
We didn't know what the lyrics were, even though we were singing them and dancing to them. Like, we didn't really, you didn't really register. We were just like happy to be doing all this cool dancing. It soon changed when I got to be a teenager, and there'd be like some swearing in my songs where I'd be like, "What did he say?"
Can you go back to these Salt and Pepper days, please? It's like, well.
Yeah. So so I do think of like that kind of era as well. That was very how they kept straight faces, I've got no idea. And then that kind of led into after that it was into my teen years, so that was all into, like I say, the Britpop days and Rage Against the Machine blaring out up the road, and Mum and Dad would come home and be like, "Turn the stereo down," and hear me like, "Can I get the name off?"
I hope you didn't get to the last bit of the song where he just repeats "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me," and it's like, oh shit, there's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, the whole street heard it, I'm afraid. So all those people when I was growing up, I'm really sorry about all the bad language coming out of my stereo.
Your neighbours are looking out the window going, "Oh, Helen's on a rebel face again, here we go,"
Yeah. We actually used to, my friend had he had a little Hillman Imp, and he like blacked out all the windows and stuff, and we used to go around in his Hillman Imp, but his stereo didn't work, so we had a ghetto blaster. And we used to play Rage Against the Machine on that, so we'd be driving around in his blacked out Hillman imp, like with Rage Against the Machine going, ah!
I love that. You're just wandering around your streets, like the,
Yeah,
mobile rage
good
machine.
children that we were.
Oh, you taught us well, from salt and pepper days to now running around in a black machine, Brilliant.
Yeah,
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. And then I've chilled out again as I've gotten older, so now it's all like gone back to more guitar-y, bandy, like, and a lot of stuff for like the work that I do, the sort of spiritual side. So there's a lot of music that's like frequency music and stuff now that's like calm and
Oh yeah,
heals you when you listen to it, and all that sort of somatic movement. And so yeah, I've gone back to being more chilled out. So I kind of had my rebel teenage phase of and now I've gone back to nice and calm and everything's lovely.
So how did you, I know as you say it's within your line of work, but how did you first come across this I guess line of work that you do, or music involved? Like, how did it all come about?
Well, it was the course that I did. So you're part of the Coaching Masters, aren't you? Did you train with? Yeah, so I did my training with the Coaching Masters, and I did the Holistic Modalities course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so Diana was an amazing teacher, bless her. She holds such a wonderful space for people, and she's just got such this lovely way about her. And yeah, she just went through all the different training, and some stuff I knew about, like meditation and stuff like that, but I didn't know about cacao at the time. And that kind of led into, she helped sort of get us into some music. She would supply us with some playlists that we could listen to and use, like while we were learning those modalities and sort of testing them out on ourselves and seeing how they would go. And then it just kind of progressed from there. I mean, you know what it's like with phones and stuff now. You look at one thing and suddenly it all comes flooding in. You look up like binaural beats and suddenly you get loads of information about all this other stuff. So that kind of makes things easier to discover now. But yeah, she initially, from the work that I did with her and the workshops and, like I said, the playlist that she sent, kind of opened up this whole other world of different music. And just recently a guy came up on my Instagram feed who's doing more sort of dance music that's healing, and it's got like different mantras and things like that in it. Yeah, so that's like new stuff that he's doing. And yeah, there's some really good stuff out there.
Do you think there's a certain aspect of that kind of music that does, I guess, the work? Like, is it the instrumentation? Is it the beat? Is it the?
It's the frequency.
Oh yeah, okay.
So so I actually did a course on how to play crystal singing bowls. I've got crystal singing bowls.
Okay.
And it's all to do with the vibrations and the frequency, and it all connects and resets your vibrations and your energy. That's why that's where the saying "they're of sound health" comes from. It's through the fact that sound is healing, and obviously that's why people relate to music, and it means so much, and it helps with your mood. Like you can put a music on and lift your mood and change your mood completely, or you can let out how you're feeling. Like, again, back to like Rage Against the Machine, if I was in a bad mood, I could really like to that, but you'd feel better because you'd let that emotion out. And so it's all to do with that kind of the vibrations of it, the pitches of it, the frequency that actually resonates with your body and helps you process that energy and flow and heal and reset all your vibrations to what they should be, so you actually feel better.
Wow.
So music's a lot deeper and a lot more magical than people would probably think that it is.
Well, actually, that's half the point of this show, really. Like, the reason I think we have these stories is that we remember how certain songs, bands, albums, etc. make us feel. And then the reason I hinted at emotions is like, you just articulated it really well. Of like Rage Against the Machine, for example, is a band that you can channel or exhibit your feelings of like frustration, rebellion, or whatever it is, through them.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about why each of us have our individual stories relating to certain songs, bands that link to certain emotions, because we use that as I refer to the NLP technique of anchoring. So when you hear a song or whatever for the first time, and a certain event's going on, or there's a certain person or whatever, then you literally, your mind puts the two together. It's like, so whenever you hear the song elsewhere, it's like it kindles a memory straight away. I mean, we more must have had that, like a song comes along, it's like, it takes you back to whatever moment, a person or whatever, and it's like, well, that's the point, as you said. And to the extension you've made into what it's of sound health is like, oh shit, you could use sound to address your health in that regard, to lower your frequencies, and it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad that I did that course, because it opened up a lot of information that I didn't know about, and it all makes sense with then the training that I did with Diana and all the holistic modalities. It kind of just helps bring everything together. But yeah, absolutely, music is healing, absolutely 100%, and that's part of the reason why people will resonate with certain things, or they feel better, or feel that they've got their emotions out, is because that song is helping them on that level. Absolutely.
Well, I think that's unfortunately, like we've hit the hour, and as I say, with all these guests that I have on it, we could go on for ages, but Helen, again, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been really fun to chat, and I loved all these pointers we touched on. Obviously we resonated a lot through tastes or what have you, which I didn't even know about, which is really cool for me. But if people want to get into touch with you as to how you do things and the service you offer, because I say it's some really cool stuff, do you want to let them know like where they can find you and what you're about? So I've got Instagram and Facebook. So Facebook, I'm just Helen Piper. On Instagram, my is I am Helen Piper. And I've got a website, helenpiper.com, but on there they'll see, I think I've got this in the background, actually. I think this is on my photos. So they should recognise the background if you do look me up. But yeah, I do all sort of coaching and cacao and kind of woo-woo, nice spiritual stuff. So if anyone's interested in finding out more about healthy chocolate, then that's where they can find out. I'm sure that's going to prick up ears going, healthy chocolate, what? Tell me more. It's amazing. Indeed. No, honestly, guys, like Helen's like one of the nicest practitioners and helpers out there. So if this does resonate, do check her out, and you'll definitely get some value out of it. And if you want to be on this show as well and share your stories about music and stories in your life, then look, just find the sign up link on this page or video wherever you're watching this, and we'll get your slot sorted out. So Helen, thanks so much again for being on the show, and we'll catch you all on the next episode. Thank you. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do like and share this episode around. Subscribe to the channel for further shows coming up. Comment with your thoughts below, and use the sign up link to get yourself on the shows on. I'd love to have you on. Feel supersonic.